Good morning, class. We have done that preparation of formation of ionic compound. So I hope ionic bond and ionic compound formation that is clear. So now we are going to start with the properties of ionic compound. So can I assume that you people now are like you can make that ionic compound very easily? There is no doubt, because one day I am going to conduct the live test for this. So if still there is any doubt, you please let me know. Okay. So let's start with this properties of ionic compound. We are going to start, and this properties of ionic compound, let me give the heading first. So this is properties of ionic compound, and we know this that ionic compound, ionic compound I should write. Ionic compound or ionic bond is formed always between metal and non-metal. Out of that, one is metal is called electropositive and non-metal is called electronegative. Or we can say that the bond formed between the cation and an ion, that is called ionic bond, and such compound is called ionic compound. Got it? So ionic compound, one more definition you can write: the bond, the compound, or the bond formed by complete transfer of electron. I think I have not written this definition in previous video, so let me write: complete transfer of electron. Okay, the bond formed by complete transfer of electrons is known as ionic bond, and such compound is called ionic bond, and such compound is called ionic compound. Got it? So that definition I have told you: electropositive, electronegative के बीच में जो bond बनता है, that is called ionic compound. Cation and ion, that is called ionic compound. Metal, non-metal, you can say ionic compound. And this is the definition. Okay, such compound is known as ionic compound. Okay, so now you should know this thing, that what are the characteristics of this. Okay, so there is for this there is an activity 3.13 that you have to perform. Okay, what is that activity? Like not perform, you just to go through with this and have to write finally the observation only you have to write. Okay, so this activity 3.13, it is said that take some salts like NaCl, KCl, BaCl2, Ki. These are the salt which is given in your activity in NCERT. Okay, so you can take this NaCl, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, barium chloride, and potassium iodide, and check the physical state of that. Physical state, that means whether they are solid, liquid, gas, something like that. Observe this. Okay, and after that you just take the small pinch of that metal, that salt, and heat directly to the flame. Okay, Bunsen burner, if we do in the chemistry lab, we have a burner that is called Bunsen burner. So what we will do, we will just directly bring the salt in a spatula to the flame, and then we will observe the flame, the color of the flame. There will be, in general, the color of the flame, we know that blue color or yellow color. If it is complete burning, then it is blue, and if it is not complete burning, then it is yellow, isn't it? But these salts, different salts, will give you different flavor. So you have to observe that what type of color they are showing. They are like a flame color they have. So that you have to observe, and then again the next thing, you have to check that whether they are soluble, they are on heating, whether they are melting or not. You have to check that that if I am heating that salt, are they melting, are they converting to liquid or not. So like this is the again observation. Next thing, you can check that try to dissolve a pinch of each and every salt in water. Got it? So, and find that whether they are soluble in not. Okay, so dissolve the salt one by one in water, petrol, and kerosene, and just check whether they are soluble or not. Okay, so all the observation, all that conclusion, whatever you have observed, that I will write at last. Okay, next thing you can check that make a circuit, just say figure in that NCERT. Figure 3.8 is shown. So make a circuit like that, and insert the electrodes into the solution of one salt. Okay, electrodes, you know that, cathode and anode. And as an electrolyte, you have to take one salt like NaCl or KCl or BaCl2 or Ki, like this, and just check, observe. You just observe it. Similarly, you have to do for all the salts, and you have to check whether they are conducting that electric current or not, something like that. Okay, so on this basis of all this experiment, we are going to conclude this as a properties of ionic compound. So this we are going to conclude. So first property we got it, like this is physical nature. Okay, so first property we will get this physical nature. So on this observing, what we have observed, like ionic compounds, we have checked that, like you can see in that kitchen also, isn't it? NaCl, salt, the salt which we use to cook the food and all that. So that is NaCl. So what is the physical state of that? They are solid, isn't it? So ionic compounds, okay, they are solid. And if any compound, if I'm talking about any compound and they are solid, so what type of force of attraction you will say, whether it is weak or strong or something, what? So yes, very quite clear that the force of attraction is strong, then only the compound will be solid, isn't it? So ionic compound, like what we will write, ionic compounds are generally solid, and why they are solid and hard. Can you tell me why they are solid? Because they have strong force of attraction. And if I will tell you to name this strong force of attraction, what you will name? Force of attraction. What you will give this? What do you name you will give? This will be called ionic bond, isn't it? This force of attraction will be called ionic bond. Okay. So, and this is a physical state, physical nature, you can say. And next you will say that they are generally brittle. So that means if we apply pressure, they will break. Yes, generally brittle. So, and easily can easily break, or easily break when pressure is applied, or on applying pressure, when pressure is applied. Okay, you might have seen that rock salt is also formula NaCl, isn't it? So that is also ionic compound. So when you apply some pressure on that breaks, isn't it? So like this. Okay, next thing I told you that you have to check whether they are melting or not. Achha, one thing, flame. So color of flame. So in this only, color of flame, I'm mentioning this color of flame. So in general, you will see that the barium chloride salt. Okay, barium chloride, I told you to take this barium. So if barium chloride salts are there, this is barium. Okay, so that will give you apple green color. Okay, if iodine, okay, so it will give you purple color, or you can say that purple color. Okay, done. And if NaCl, so due to this Na, it will show the color and it will give you orangish, yellowish color. Okay, you can say yellowish color. And since chlorine is also there, so they both give the color, Na and chlorine both. So that's why this color will be yellowish green, because chlorine is green in color. Okay, yellowish green color. So like this, they will show the flame. Okay. Now second point, if I'll say, I asked that whether on heating, have you observed that whether they are melting or not? So next point is melting and boiling point. This is, I should write this only, melting and boiling point. Okay, so melting, and since I have told you that in the starting only I said this strong force of attraction. If a strong force of attraction is there, that means it needs more energy to break isn't it? So that means to melt, it needs high energy. So that's why it is ionic compounds have high melting point. Ionic compounds, and since it is solid, so we will talk about the melting point only, not the boiling point. Got it? What I explained, is it clear? If we are taking salt, dry salt, it will be solid it will be in solid form, so it will have melting point, not the boiling point. But yes, if we will dissolve this salt in the water, and then if we heat, so we will say, then at that time we will ask boiling point, we'll say boiling point, because boiling point is the definition, you know the definition, liquid to gas, isn't it? So boiling point will be there only when the substance is going to convert into liquid to gas. But if the substance is converting into solid to liquid, it will be always melting point. Clear? So I am writing ionic compound assuming that it is solid in state. We have not dissolved it yet. Yes. So ionic compounds are like, they have, ionic compounds have high melting point. Okay. And whenever we will talk about the boiling point, that means we have dissolved the salt in the water and then we are checking. Okay. So high melting point. Why? Reason क्या होगा? Because of, as or due to strong force of attraction. Yes. Any doubt in this? Due to strong force of attraction, its melting point will be high, and if we will make it solution and then heat, then we will say its boiling point will be very high because of, again, the strong force of attraction. Third thing, we will check the solubility. Okay, and solubility, that means whether it is dissolved in the substance or not. Okay, so there is a principle like dissolves like. We all know that, like, we have, if we are good in study, we will have good friends which are good in study. If we are like naughty, so we will have a friend of naughty group, isn't it? Like this. So always there is a compatibility, there should be. So that's why like dissolves like. Okay, that means सेम में घुलता है, मतलब एक जैसा जो होगा, दोनों के नेचर, if the nature of these substance will be same, then only it will dissolve. Okay, so if we talk about ionic compounds are generally polar. Ionic compounds are polar in nature. Now you will ask that what is polar? Ionic compounds are polar in nature. Okay, so this polar definition has like a good concept is there in class 11, but till now you just learned this. Polar, that means when we will break the substance, it will have positive and negative charge. Just to, I'm explaining in the layman language, it's just to understand. This is not polar. Okay, polar substance का मतलब होता है, whenever we talk about polar, there must be some electronegativity difference. This is the scientific word. This is the scientific definition. But what you will say, that you will ask now, what is this electronegativity and all that. So for now, just forget about this definition. You have to understand what, if the compound and when it goes, like when it breaks, it will give you positive and negative, then only it will be considered as polar. Okay, so ionic compound are polar in nature. That's why it dissolves in polar solvent. And if we talk about the polar solvent, you should understand that water is a universal universal solvent, polar solvent. Okay, so any ionic compound will be dissolved in water. Got it? But not in petrol or kerosene, something like that. Petrol or kerosene. Why? Because petrol and kerosene are non-polar. Okay. Why? What is this non-polar? That means whenever you break the compound, you won't get the positive and negative charge over there. I hope it is clear. Yes. So this point you have to learn, that polar, if it is polar, then it will be dissolved in polar solvent, and if it will be non-polar, it will dissolve in non-polar solvent. Clear? Okay, so now the fourth and the last property of this ionic compound is conduction of electricity. It is very good topic, conduction of electricity. So what it says, conduction of electricity can be of due to two ways. First, whenever first let me write the whether when it will conduct electricity or when not, then I will explain all this thing. Okay, so ionic compounds conduct electricity in molten or aqueous state. Molten or aqueous state, not in solid state. Okay, what this is, whenever it will be in molten, that means little bit amount of water is there, or in aqueous state, that means more of the amount of water is there, then only it will conduct electricity. But if it is dry, if it is in solid state, it won't conduct electricity. Why they conduct electricity? Ionic compounds, they conduct electricity due to free ions. Okay, this is the word. Whenever it is asked that why the ionic compound conduct electricity, then you must have to say this, that ionic compound conduct electricity due to free ions, or some good word you can use, due to mobility of free ions. Okay, so I just want to tell you two things, that any substance can conduct electricity due to two reasons. Either it should have free ion or due to free electrons. Got it? Two ways, either due to free ions or due to free electrons. So whenever we talk about ionic compound, it will conduct electricity due to free ions. But whenever we talk about the metals, it will conduct electricity due to free electrons. Be very careful about this. Ionic compound conduct electricity due to free ions, and metals conduct electricity due to free electrons. Now you will ask me how it is free ions. See, in the solid state, whenever we talk about solid state, it is like NaCl. So there is no ion in this case. So that's why in the solid state, it doesn't conduct electricity. Okay, it doesn't conduct. But whenever it is dissolved in water, if we add water in this, so what will happen? This will split into Na plus and Cl minus. So due to this free ions are there, no? Ions किसे कहते हैं? You know, the element or the compound or the molecule which is having any charge will be called ions. So due to this free ions, what they carry? Electrons, and they carry charge. In the physics you have done, yes. Charged particle only carry electricity, isn't it? So this is now charged particle when either in the molten state or in aqueous state. Okay, so they will have ions, and hence it will conduct electricity. So this is the line, very important line, that you have to keep in your mind. After this, you have to do the homework in text question, page number 49, question number 1 and 2. So in text homework, in text page 49, question 1 and 2. Okay, this is the homework class. Okay, so class, after getting this ionic compound and ionic bond, we are done with the chapter according to new syllabus. Okay, according to, because after this there is extraction of metal, and that portion is deleted. Okay, so that portion is deleted, but the thing is that still it is not clear that whether this part will be simply deleted, or like if some question can be asked from this portion. Okay, so that is the still dilemma. That means they are saying that there will be case study question something. So in that question, in that portion, question from the deleted portion can be there. Got it? So that's why extraction of metal, I am making a new video for that, and you have to go through with this. but you just on the heading you just write down deleted syllabus. That means right now though we will study, but whenever we will study for board exam, we will practice for board exam in month of December, January, February, like. So if by the time it will be clear that whether the question will be asked, one or two question will be asked, or no question will be asked from this topic, so accordingly we will do, either we will leave this topic, or if question will be asked, then we will start read that topic. Got it? But right now I am going to explain all this, so you people have to be careful. Done with that? So whenever you will write the notes on that extraction of metal, after this heading is there, you just write the portion is deleted. Okay, bache? I hope I made myself clear what you are supposed to do. Got it? So let's start with this. So in this, actually what we have to do, we have to deal with the process to extract the metal. So this chapter, this topic will deals with the metal and its extraction, with the metals and its extraction. And one thing I want to tell you, that this chapter was, I think you will have done in class 8th also, and this is here also, and it will go, you have to be, you will also find this chapter in class 12th. Got it? So, but yes, of course in class 12th it will be with a little more description. So till that we have to go through with this topic. So let's start with this. So deals with the metals and its extraction. Extraction word we will do afterwards. First we should know the metals. What are the metals? So to need the for extraction of the metal, we need to know the metals. Okay. So to know the metals, we will do the reactivity series first, and that I have already told you in class like earlier chapter. So that is the reactivity series. This is Kashi Nath के महंगे आलू जरा फीके पके, isn't it? So in that way you can learn this. And then it was hydrogen, and then this is the metal, the coinage metal we have to write, that this is copper, and then it comes mercury, and then it comes silver, gold, and the last one is peter. Okay, so this is your reactivity series. Out of that, till aluminium, this one, till aluminium, and this is zinc, iron and mercury, and then this comes. So all the reactivity series is classified under 3 categories. Got it? So what are the 3 categories for that? The top of the reactivity series has highly reactive metal. Okay, these are the highly reactive metal, and highly reactive metal means they will never be found in free state. They will never be found in free state. Got it? So it also means that it will always be in the combined form. So that is always in combined form. So what is this combined form? Combined form, that means it will always be in the form of compound. Like you will never see potassium only, like potassium alone. It will be potassium chloride, potassium sulfate, isn't it? You will never see calcium alone. Wherever the calcium we will see, it is either in the form of calcium sulfate, calcium phosphate, calcium chloride, like this. So also in the combined form you can see. Okay, done. This second group, if we come in the mid of that group, that is called moderately reactive. Moderately reactive group. Okay, reactive metals. So actually these metals will also be in form of compound. Okay, like these will also be in form of compounds, and that compounds will be generally in 3 types, like either it will be oxides, or it will be like you can say sulfide, or the third one is carbonate. Got it? As for example, if I'll say that what will be the compound of like zinc? So zinc oxide, that is ZnO. Isn't it iron? You can say iron oxide, iron sulfide, FeS. Similarly, you can say for this also, zinc carbonate also you can say, isn't it? Like similarly, Fe for the Fe is 2CO3. Like this is the compound. And similarly for lead also, PbO or PbS, like you can say. So these are the compound for zinc healing, and then iron, and then lead. So these are the compounds it exists. Got it? And the bottom of that reactivity series are called least reactive metal. Least reactive metal. That means they will always be in free state. That means they will never combine. Okay, free state. Like it doesn't mean that they will never combine. They can combine, but in the atmosphere, in the environment, they exist freely. Got it? I mean to say that. Okay, because they are least reactive. They don't react by their own. So they exist just like that, isn't it? Clear? And now, if I will ask, the question is like, in the out of these three, the oxide, the metals in form of oxides, they are in like what we say, they are in abundant in oxide form. So can you tell me why it is like that? Why it's so? So there are the two reasons for that. For the metal to be in form of oxide, or for the existence of the metal to be in oxide form, there are the two reasons. The first reason is oxygen is the most abundant element. Oxygen is the most abundant element. Yes, so much. So obviously it will react fast react. And the second one, if you'll ask, so what you'll say? This is like highly reactive. Oxygen is highly reactive. So obviously, with respect to sulfur and carbonate, the oxygen react faster and it form oxide. Highly reactive. Got it? So hope this thing is clear, isn't it? So one thing I want to tell you this is AU and PT are the least reactive. Okay, that means this is the least reactive. They never ever react with any other. And this AU and PT, they never ever react with any other element. That means they exist always in the free state, and hence their extraction will be easy. Got it? Because simply in the same form it is existing in the atmosphere, so we don't have to extract it from other things. Yes, so that's why its extraction will be easy. Got it? But if we see these two, like these three, copper, mercury and Ag, they are least reactive, but still they can react with the oxygen and the sulfur. Got it? And you better know the examples, like copper is copper sulfide, copper oxide, Similarly, mercury sulfide, this is vermilion. We say vermilion, HGS. Okay. And this is PBS. Once I have written PBS, this is galena. Okay, this is galena, and this is vermilion. Similarly, HGO, we also get vermilion, VERMILLION, vermilion, and HGO like this. And this silver. You better know. We have done it in what we say, corrosion. Yes. So this is Ag2S. So this is all about the metals, isn't it? Any doubt in this? So now we are moving ahead, and we are going to start the extraction, which is the main topic of our. Okay. So extraction of the metals. So extraction is actually basically we do it from the minerals. Okay. Minerals. If you say We do it from minerals. Extraction is done by minerals. Got it? So what is this mineral? Mineral hai kya? Yes. So mineral is the naturally occurring substance metal compound or the substance, we can say, in the earth crust. In the earth crust. Got it? Any doubt in this? So, like if we say minerals, okay. So in that case, in this case, you are bound to have two things. What it is? The one is the metal which is of your interest, like for which you want to do the extraction, isn't it? So one will be the metal which is of your interest. Like if you want to extract the copper, this metal will be of copper. This metal will be copper, iron, silver, gold, whatever, or the zinc and like this. And the another thing which you don't like in that, isn't it? So that will be in different forms. It could be like stones. It could be pebbles. Like it could be sand and soil, mud. Maybe other elements also which we don't like, which you don't want, isn't it? It can be other metal also. Any doubt? So all together, if we talk about all together, these all together are known as gangue. This is known as gangue. That means in the mineral there is one thing which is of our interest and the another thing which we don't like, and that the undesired thing which we don't like, what it is called? It is gangue. It can be, suppose that if I want to extract the copper, so what is the metal of our interest? Copper. Copper ke alawa if any other metals are present over there, what it will be? It will be considered as gangue for us. So, if I'll ask you, what is gangue? So, gangue is nothing but the earthy impurities present in the metal. Okay, so it is nothing but earthy impurities present in minerals. Okay, hope it is clear. So, if the thing is that okay, metals and gangue I have explained. So before starting the mineral topic, I want to drag your attention about the very important thing, and that is called ore. Okay, so what is this ore? We will know it by an example. So let's start with an example. Suppose that I am taking a mineral. Okay, this is a mineral I am taking, and actually two type of minerals. Okay, so mineral 1 and mineral 2. So you can take, suppose that I want zinc, so I'm taking zinc carbonate. Okay, and so in this is also zinc carbonate. Both are of zinc carbonate. Okay, the metal of interest is zinc. Suppose that here the metal compound is like the metal compound. Metal compound is, suppose that it is 5%. So rest, what it will be? Rest will be gangue, isn't it? So gangue is 95%. That means it is having 95% undesired thing which we don't want. Another case, if you see, so here the metal compound is, suppose that 25%. So the gangue is just 75%, isn't it? So if we compare these two, so which will be profitable for us? This one, because here the metal of the interest is more in percentage, isn't it? While in this case impurities is more. Are you getting it? So this is known as such minerals which is having least percentage of gangue or impurities. What I am saying? Such minerals which is having least percentage of gangue or impurities are called what? are called ores. So how can you define it? Such minerals from which we can extract the metal easily, economically, that means profitably. Yes, economically, is known as ores. Got it? So ores is nothing but mineral. It is a mineral only. But in that such mineral, or we can write that such minerals which is having least percentage of impurities, which is also known as gangue. Any problem in this? I think it is clear. Okay, so now we'll step in the extraction process, and all that extraction process we will do, that is also called metallurgical process. Okay, so now we are going to start the topic, the heading, next topic, that is metallurgy. Okay, so what is this metallurgy? If I'll ask metallurgy, it's a new topic next. So let me define it first, and then we'll move ahead. Okay, so for this, if that is, we can write the definition: the process by which the pure metal can be extracted or can be obtained, you can write. Okay, pure metal can be extracted or obtained is known as metallurgy. Okay, metallurgy. So this metallurgy, actually it involves lots of steps that we one by one we have to go for the steps. Okay, so what are the steps for this? If we talk about the steps, metallurgical steps, so the first step is, that is enrichment of ore. Like you will also find it in other book. Instead of this enrichment, they are using benefaction of ores or concentration of ores. This is also known as benefaction of ores, or we can write concentration of ores. Okay, so basically in this topic, what we do, what do you mean by all this word? Okay, so it is nothing but removal of gangue. We just remove the gangue. So this is nothing but removal of gangue. We'll do one by one. Okay, all the steps we will do. Now the second step is oxidation of metal compounds or metal, like whatever metal, in metal oxide. So here think that metal oxide, already I told you that in general the metals are existent in form of their oxides. Yes, in that previous we have done. That's it. The metals exist in form of oxides, but also exist in form of sulfides and carbonate. If it is already an oxide, there is no issue, no need, no problem. But if it is sulfide or carbonate, it is needed to convert it into metal oxide. Got it? We have to convert these metal sulfides or metal carbonates into metal oxides. Clear? So basically in this topic what we have two things. One is metal sulfide, because already metal oxide is so already oxide, so no need to change. And second is metal carbonate, isn't it? So we have to change these two both in metal oxide. And again the question is that what's the need to convert it into metal oxide? What is the problem? What is the advantage that the metal other metal compound should be converted into metal oxide? So actually what is the reason here? The conversion that the reduction, we can say reduction of metal oxide is quite easier than any other process to get metal. So basically what we want, we have to extract the metal, we want the metal only, isn't it? So we have to find the way by which we can get the metal easily, economically, with a more profit, isn't it? Yes. So all that metal compounds, whatever the compounds, metal compounds exist in three forms. One is oxide, another is sulfide and carbonate. Out of that, maximum are in form of oxide. What is the reason? That I told you, because oxygen is abundant and oxygen is highly reactive also, so that react with the metals, isn't it? So, and some percentage of metal also exists in form of sulfide, also exists in form of carbonate. So when we go for the metallurgical steps, we are supposed to convert this metal sulfide and carbonates both into metal oxide. That means whatever the ore are there, metal sulfide ho ya metal carbonate ho, we are supposed to convert it into metal oxide. And then again there is a big question, that why was the need to convert the metal sulfide or the metal carbonate in metal oxide? So the reason is reduction of the metal oxide is quite easier than any other process to get the metal. Reduction simply hum kar denge, oxygen will go out and the metal we will get. So that is a very easy process, so that's why we follow this. Okay. And here comes third steps actually. Third step is purification. Okay. Purification of extracted metal. Like whatever the method we will use here, reduction we will do and all that. So ये जो metal मिलेगा, that will again not in 99.9% pure. It is still has some 5 to 10% of impurities it will have. So at last we will do the purification. Got it? So these are the three steps that we have to go. We have to follow in the metallurgical the steps. Out of that, all the single steps we will do in detail. We'll do in thorough. Okay? So don't worry. In next class, I will explain that what is this enrichment of ores and how we do. Then the enriched ores will be oxidized to metal oxide form, and then this metal oxide will go converted into metal, simple metal, which is still not pure, 100% pure. So still 5 to 10% impurities will be there. So that how that 5 to 10% impurities will be removed from that we will know in the last topic. Got it? So this is all about the metallurgical space that will be. Still the main thing are left. We have to cover all this thing. So for today, let it be over. Okay. So thank you, class.